David Park had always believed that hungry kids were hungry kids, regardless of how many arms they had. His food truck, Earth Eats, sat in the industrial district of Station Kepler, 442, where species from 100 worlds came to work the docks and factories. It wasn't glamorous, but David made honest food at fair prices, and that was enough. That's where he first saw them. 3 small aliens huddled near the trash compactors, watching workers eat their lunches with hollow, hungry eyes. They were Zinthri children, he'd learned, with pale blue skin, large dark eyes, and delicate features that seemed too fragile for the harsh station environment. The eldest couldn't have been more than 10. She held her siblings close, their ragged clothing barely keeping out the station's recycled air. David didn't hesitate. He made 3 sandwiches, real earth bread, synthesized chicken, fresh vegetables from the hydroponics bay. Luxuries for most station workers. The kids stared at the food like it was treasure. "It's okay," David said gently. "You can eat." They devoured the meal in seconds. The eldest looked up at him with tears in her enormous eyes. "Thank you," she whispered in broken standard. "What are your names?" David asked. "I am Liara. This is Kessin and Mila." "Where are your parents?" Liara's expression darkened. "Gone. We wait for our mother, but—" She trailed off, hopeless. David's heart broke. Orphans, or abandoned. Either way, not his problem. Except it was, because the next day, he made them lunch again, and the day after, and the day after that. 6 months passed. The children came every day at noon, and David always had food ready. He taught them English words. They taught him Zinthri phrases. Liara helped clean the truck. Kessin learned to prep vegetables. Little Mila just smiled, the first real joy David had seen from any of them. Other vendors thought he was crazy. "You're losing money on those strays," they'd say. David would shrug. "They're kids. They need to eat." He never asked for their story. Some wounds were too deep to probe. But he noticed things. The way Liara carried herself with strange dignity despite her circumstances. How she sometimes used words too sophisticated for a street child. The small medallion around her neck that looked far too valuable for a vagrant. He never pried. Everyone on the station was running from something. The day everything changed started normally. David was prepping lunch when a fleet of ships appeared on the station's view screens. Massive warships that dwarfed the station itself. The Zinthri Imperial Armada. Panic spread through the docks. The Zinthri Imperium ruled a third of the galaxy, and their Empress was known for her iron will and absolute power. Why were they here? David barely noticed the commotion. He was focused on making the kids sandwiches. Liara liked extra cheese. Kessin preferred his without tomatoes, and Mila always wanted her crust cut off. He heard the footsteps before he saw them. Hundreds of them. Elite Zinthri Imperial guards in gleaming armor surrounded his food truck, weapons ready. Workers fled. Vendors closed their stalls. David froze, spatula in hand. Then she appeared. The Empress Shavara of the Zinthri Imperium stood 8 feet tall, draped in robes that seemed woven from starlight itself. Her crown held jewels from conquered worlds. Her eyes, ancient and powerful, fixed on David's humble food truck. Behind her, 3 small figures broke free from the guards and ran. "David!" Mila's voice rang out. The children, his children, rushed to him. Liara grabbed his hand. Kessin hugged his leg. Mila buried her face in his apron. The Empress approached slowly. Every guard tensed. David stood protectively in front of the kids, sandwich still in hand. Shavara stopped before him. For a long moment, she simply stared. Then, to everyone's shock, tears began streaming down her face. 6 months, she whispered, her voice cracking. 6 months, I searched every station, every colony, every corner of space after their transport was attacked. 6 months, I feared them dead. She looked at her children, alive, healthy, safe. Then she looked at David. "You fed them." "Yes, ma'am." "You asked nothing in return?" "They were hungry." "Did you know who they were?" David glanced at Liara, who watched him with guilty, hopeful eyes. "No, ma'am. I knew they were kids who needed help." That was enough. The Empress stepped closer. Her guards raised weapons instinctively. She knelt before David, the ruler of trillions, kneeling before a food truck operator. You saved my children when the galaxy could not find them. You fed them, protected them, gave them kindness when they had nothing. Her voice resonated with power and emotion. By Zenthri law, by Mother's gratitude, by the authority of the Imperium itself, I name you David Park of Earth, guardian friend to the Imperial House. What you have given freely, I can never truly repay. She stood and gestured to her fleet. But I can try. Name your desire. Wealth? Worlds? A seat on the Imperial Council. David looked at the 3 kids clinging to him, then at his modest food truck, then back at the most powerful being in the galaxy. Can I just keep feeding them lunch? Silence. Then Liara laughed, a sound of pure joy. Kessin grinned. Mila giggled into David's apron. The Empress stared at him for a long moment, then smiled, genuine and warm. The galaxy forgets, she said softly. That power means nothing if we forget kindness. You reminded my children of that. You reminded me. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Keep your food truck, David Park. But know this, you are now under the protection of the Zenthri Imperium. And every day, if you wish it, I shall send my children to have lunch with a man who saw them not as royalty, but simply as children who needed care. David smiled. Lunch is at noon. Tell them not to be late. As the Empress departed with her armada, leaving a squadron of guards to protect Earth Eats, David returned to his grill. He had sandwiches to make. After all, hungry kids were hungry kids, even if their mother ruled the galaxy.